dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain. 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 Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain. Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet.
Terrain. Pull up.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
Of course you realize this means war.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
I am not a happy camper right now. And I'm going to explain it to you in just a moment. Before I go into my standard opening, which I may not get time for, I just thought I'd tell everybody here that the cursor over here has decided to lock up. So the reason I was late is trying to open up Facebook, open up YouTube, and then open up Spreaker. And I was praying for at least one of these to work. So my cursor is frozen. I was able to open up as many things as I could. I've been having some trouble with this in the past. I've not been able to try to narrow this down as to what the issue is. So folks, you're going to have to tell me, because I'm not going to stop the show. We're going to continue. And I believe if you're in chat, if you're in SHR chat, let me know in chat. I can see chat. I cannot chat back with you, but I can see what you're writing. Can you hear me? Audio only on SHR. Just let me know yes or no. While you're there, if anybody happens to be on Facebook, let me know if you can see the show on Facebook. And if you happen to be in YouTube, let me know if you can see the show on YouTube. Because we're going to get audio. We're going to hear Kate. That's not going to be the issue. But my ability to change scenes, etc., is apparently going to be affected. Now, it will, the input, Kaiser says it's live on YouTube. Good. And Leslie says, I hear you. And audio on SHR, yes. Okay, we're golden. So what that means is you guys are going to be able to hear Kate tonight. And I'm not going to be able to change scenes in the video, but that's okay, because it's just me. And, listen, Alaskan, God. Okay, Jim Christensen is in Facebook chat. Welcome to you. Sergeant Booker, Jack Alexander, Leslie Holker, the Alaskan, Kaiser, Kate, and 2 viewers are in the SHR Media chat. And I appreciate definitely everybody being here tonight. My intro was bombed, and that's okay, because the most important part is coming. So I can say this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I gotta thank you for tuning into my show. Because I'm about to talk to a very special guest who has a story to tell tonight. And I am blessed to have been chosen as the vessel through which to tell it. A portion of my audience already knows who she is. And she has been here once before with Kaiser Schuff. But because my show has expanded greatly in the past few months, notwithstanding technical difficulties, I guess you could look at this as a feature and not a glitch. I happen to see it as a glitch. Not everybody here links to my Facebook page or my other social media, so everybody may not be aware of who is going to be on tonight. So it's incumbent upon me to provide some background. Because frankly, this is what happened. Up until last Wednesday, the 24th, I really didn't know much about my guest. She sort of sounded interesting. I kind of suspected something was fairly serious there. But it was more kind of like ephemera than substance. Then, on a whim, I was listening to the Unleashed Jeremy Hansen show last week as well, as you should too, by the way. And in the process of that, I don't know, something told me my spidey sense was tingling, and I asked her to be on the show. I thought, there's something here. And so she accepted. So tonight is as a result of almost 2 hours of texting, frenetic texting back and forth last week, I have decided that we're going to take a journey tonight. And I would like to make some statements up front that both Kate and I agreed on when we spoke and when we texted. What you're about to hear for the next hour is a story that she has not really told. As I said, I am blessed that she has chosen me as her medium of revelation. But it's a story, obviously, that only she can tell. And Kate has already said that this is not about me. It's about those that we can save. And she's absolutely correct. Perhaps some of you at this point are thinking, I don't quite understand it. Give me time. Give us time. You will understand. And I told her that's an admirable and a lofty goal, in which turn bespeaks to me volumes about her character. So tonight, I'm not necessarily starting at the start. I'm kind of, in fact, going to unfold these things, this voyage, in something of a fashion, kind of like it unfolded to me by one very unique, brave, stalwart individual named KATE KRUSZEWSKI. Now, having said that, Kate and I both agreed that some folks should be forewarned. The journey tonight may not be completely for the faint of heart. And so guiding us through that journey is going to be KATE KRUSZEWSKI. She's the originator and creator of the very popular Facebook page, Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive. That's a private group that is, trust me, rather vetted closely. So welcome, KATE KRUSZEWSKI, to the Saloon tonight, and I really appreciate your being here.
Thank you very much for having me on, and it is an honor to be in your saloon.
First, Kate, your page is described for people that don't know, if you're on Facebook, you are doing yourselves, folks, a great disservice by not going to Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive. Just either enter Survive, Thrive, Stay Alive in the field, and you'll go right to it. So the Facebook page, in case you're curious, is described as, and a lot of people that are already here tonight know exactly what kind of a page it is. It's a family of like-minded individuals who want to discuss, teach, and learn ways to survive, thrive, and stay alive in survival situations, where people can come together with diverse opinions and still get along with no judgment. So, as I promised, it's a journey. KATE KRUSZEWSKI, when did you start this page, and what were your goals? Did you have, for example, a certain number of people that you wanted to get on board?
Not at all. We do keep our numbers low on this particular page because, like you did say, it is vetted. We don't want just anybody on the page.
Right.
It is not political, nor do we discuss religion or anything like that. It is basically a group of people who have come together as a family that we discuss our knowledge in surviving, thriving, and staying alive. I started this page because I had belonged to another page, and an undesirable individual was monitoring and adminning that page as well, and he decided to go against other people that's in the same genre as you are, and he came after me as well because I would not play the game. And for those, and most everyone out there knows that, at least on the listening right now, most everyone knows I don't put up with the bull crap. and I will tell you like it is. I'm not going to beat around the bush. And if you don't like what I have to say, I'm sorry. If I hurt your feelings, I apologize, but at least you know where I stand. And I appreciate that from others. Well, when I left that group, Kaiser, Schuff, and another individual that I have been on Kaiser's show with multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
they twisted my arm, pulled my hair, rolled me up in the pretzel and said, Kate, this is what you need to do. And so finally I said, okay. They've been trying to get me to do a podcast. I agreed to do a podcast, but I'm text-hearted. So I went ahead and opened the page on Facebook, and it has taken off. I was unaware of how many like-minded people were out there.
Okay, a technical point, if I can, Kate, if you have some way, I've got you max on my board right now. If there's some way on your end to crank up your volume, because folks are saying in chat that your volume is a little low, and because of that, you're at full max that I can do through the board on this thing. I don't know if there's any gain or a volume control on your headset that you're using right there, or maybe you can talk up a little louder.
Is this better? Is this better?
And or maybe talk a little louder, and that way all the people can get through. And trust me when I tell you there's a ton of people in chat, and there's a lot of people who want to hear what you say tonight.
Okay, is this better?
That is. Thank you.
Is it better? Okay, all I did was push one little bitty button. Okay, awesome.
Okay, buttons are great. I'm a techno-Luddite. I admit it. So what kind of things do you talk about on your blog? Because it's not a blog, on your Facebook page. Because I actually wrote down in show prep for tonight, I went down, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 days or a week on your blog, and I came up with a list. So in general, survive, thrive, stay alive, what kind of things can people see if they want to go there?
A little bit of everything. There is one gentleman on there on this particular page that he tinkers, and that's what he does. He builds things from nothing. And there's another guy who is Wilderness Save. As a matter of fact, he is on the Discovery Channel show, The Mountain Men.
Oh.
We have a couple of doctors that belong to Doctors Without Borders that are on this page. We have people that are in the private sector of executive protection. It's a whole group of people that just want to learn what to do, how to do, and why to do it that way in any given survival situation. And there are people on there that know exactly how to do that. So we share our ideas, and we get comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, and we're all adult on there. If there is an individual on this page that want to get ugly, nasty, and say certain things, they are quietly removed.
Well, that's not the point of the whole thing in any event. Another techno issue, if you could speak up even a little bit louder, if there's another gain control that you have. And the other thing is, and let's see, who just said this? Sergeant Booker said, I tried to search Facebook for it, and Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive didn't come up. Okay, Sergeant Booker, what you need to do, go into your favorite search engine, if you don't trust Facebook, because apparently it's not yielding things for you. Go into your favorite search engine and just write Survive, Thrive, Stay Alive. And right after that, Kate, Kate, Kruszewski, I'm going to spell it, KRUSZEWSKI. Survive, thrive, stay alive in your favorite search engine. If Facebook isn't yielding it, my guess would be you're going to get it right there. So,
and if you do not get it right there, just go to Facebook and send me a friend request. Even though I do not know you, I will accept your friend request. Then I will add you to the page, and then you will be vetted. and then I can just delete you as a friend.
Okay.
It's not that I do not allow friends on my page. It's just if I do not know you, you're not on my page.
Well, it's Sergeant Booker, so apparently he's going to try right now. Folks, this is why you need to be here. This is the list of stuff that I found that's on the page. And I'm not kidding. This is just the stuff. This is a sample of stuff I found in a week. Medicine, plants, animal building, construction, water, gear, equipment, solar power, bugging out, prepping, firearms, defensive tactics, knots, canning, food, gardening, emergency first aid, wound packing, electric foundries, metal casting, tools, situational awareness, threat assessment, armoring, fire building, stump pulling, seed surveillance, sealers, humor, storm preparation, swords, food drying, social tension, and much, much more. Have I just about covered it, Kate?
Just about covered it.
Okay, so Kate Kruszewski, because you're a friend of Kaiser Schuff's, I thought that you were in the military, and it turns out that I was right, because Kaiser sort of rolls that way. Kaiser's been involved in the military for quite some time. So before we get into how you joined, can you tell us when you joined the military and what branch?
I joined the military in the 70s, and I would give the exact date, but I choose not to for specific reasons.
Okay.
I joined in the 70s. I joined the United States Army as a 95 Bravo, which is military police. I was trained as a regular military police officer, if that is even a thing called regular. But then I was transferred and trained as military police escort, which is where we do executive protection for high-profile, high-value targets, high-value individuals like the president, royalty. Kaiser would know how to say it. People in Hollywood back then, when Hollywood was not as bad as it is now.
Okay. All righty. Did you have any other assignments in the Army other than as an MP and escort, executive protection, that kind of thing? Or was that was the focus of your time in service?
No, that wasn't the focus. That was my focus towards the end of my military career, but we were trained in the Iranian hostage crisis. That ought to tell you something right there.
Okay.
We were trained at Fort Drum, New York, the Iranian hostage crisis. We were trained, we processed in Cuban soldiers at Fort McCoy and Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, and Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, where we processed in Cubans that were supposed to be Cuban families, but the American people were not told that it was basically Cuban soldiers. We did riot control for certain areas overseas that we're not allowed to talk about until like 40 years or whatever it is. You sign papers and all that happy stuff. Once I was doing that, I did that for 2 years, and I was asked if I wanted to be escort. And in the military, you don't say, yes, I'll try it, and if I don't like it, I'll back out. They highly frown on that, and they really don't care. So I told them yes, I would do it, and then that was it. I was trained, and escorting is what I've done ever since.
Okay, so we will get into other aspects of that, but my guess would be, Kate Kruszewski, that all of this training and the military and the service translated well into your Facebook page, Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive. And I would guess that's one of the major reasons that you started that page?
I started the page because I saw that there was a need, and there was just a need for people. There's a hunger. There's a need for people who want to know information, and they want to know the proper information. They don't want to be lied to.
Okay.
And between Kaiser and another individual, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, so I'm not going to.
Okay.
With Kaiser and another individual, they were twisting my arm and said, "You really need to do this." So I did.
Folks, again, I say you got to go to the Facebook page, Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive. Once you get there, you will be impressed by the vast amounts of knowledge that's exhibited there. So, Kate, I then asked you how it was that you chose to go into the U.S. Army. And this is where your story begins, as you related it to me. And as I indicate, I'm unfolding this tonight as it was essentially related to me. I was about as prepared for what you told me as I think people are unprepared for what you are about to say tonight. So, Kate Kruszewski, just let me ask, what was your childhood like before the age of 13?
My mother had married an individual who was an aristocrat, who was an aristocrat in another country, and he died 2 months before my birth. And 2 years after my birth, my mother married an individual who was an evil man. He never liked me. He never wanted anything to do with me. And when I was 13 years old, him and my eldest stepbrother sold me into human trafficking. They had debts to pay. They owed the equivalent of the United States syndicate. They owed the equivalent overseas, a very large sum of money, and that was the only way that they could pay the debt. Their debt was paid, and my debt began.
So it would be accurate at the age of 13, you were sold into servitude.
That is correct. Not from the United States. We were in Greece at the time.
Okay. And because your biological father had died already prior to your birth, and if I'm remembering correctly, and here comes my remembering hat, your biological father was from Liechtenstein, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. Yes, actually it's pronounced Liechtenstein. Yes.
Liechtenstein, okay.
Yes.
And your mom was from Poland.
That is correct.
Okay, so your mother married a man from the U.S. with a bunch of sons 2 years after your biological father's death.
Correct.
Okay, and your stepfather never liked you. And I think you mentioned Greece. You were there in Greece, on vacation in Greece?
We were on vacation, and I had no clue what was happening. I had no clue what was going on. I was busy sightseeing. I was a teenager. I wasn't your normal teenager where I was 13 years old looking at boys. I was looking at I love castles, and I love old things and antiques, and back then we had a different type of cameras than what they do now, and but I was taking pictures and doing the film and doing everything I could to remember this vacation, because I knew that I wasn't going to be coming back for a long time. So at a certain point, I was at a waterfall in front of a very large governmental building, and an individual walked up to me and asked me for my name, and I gave them my name. I didn't think anything of it, and my stepdad was standing a little bit a ways away, and he was watching, so I figured everything was all right. I was going to be okay because my stepfather was there, and the next thing I know, I had a bag over my head, and I was taken away. I was put in a vehicle. I have no idea what vehicle it was, and I was driven away.
And this is in Greece, on vacation, at the age of 13, You were a very young teenager, and at that site...
I had just turned 13. I believe I was like 4 days old into 13.
And your stepfather, happy birthday, arranges to have a hood placed over your head, and then you were removed from that area and then essentially trafficked to pay a debt that your stepfather owed. Is that correct?
That is correct. My stepfather and my oldest stepbrother.
And they transitioned you to essentially an organized criminal element. Should we say it that way?
It was definitely organized. I do not know who the traffickers were at that time. I found out later, but I was scared to death. I was placed with other children, a couple of my age. There were 9 of us altogether. There were a couple of my age. There was one younger, approximately 7 years old. There were a couple of them that were a little older, maybe 15, 16 years old. What they do is there are orders. Let's just say, without mentioning any names, there's people from Saudi Arabia who are very wealthy and they want a specific young person, let's just say a female with blonde hair, blue eyes, petite, doesn't have to be a specific family prominence, just blonde hair, blue eyes, petite, and must be a virgin. Some want specific blonde hair, blue eyes, not a virgin, dark hair, black hair, green eyes, not a virgin. There were 2 of us that were in this group of girls that were virgins, and we were going to be auctioned and sold. The rest of the girls, we had no idea what was going to happen to them.
So you were in a situation where individuals, men, could come from whatever country, essentially check off a box like a menu of what kind of an individual they were looking for, and you were sold into slavery.
Yes.
KATE KRUSZEWSKI, some very bad things occurred to you after you were sold, essentially as a slave, into captivity at the age of 13. I will leave it to the listeners to imagine what happened, and I'm not going to ask you. We agreed upon that. Being a 13-year-old, I imagine most people can do the mathematics on that. Let me move a little forward. You said there were other people that were with you. From the age of 13, how long were you a captive? And do you have any idea in which country it may have been?
Yes, we were still in Greece, and I was there 27 days. There were 9 of us total. 6 were removed. The 7-year-old, she died from her injuries, from the things that they did to her.
Okay.
And 2 of us were rescued.
Okay. We'll get to the rescue, and you answered another question that I was going to ask in a bit. Because what happened after that point was essentially something almost right out of a movie. The people that were in there, the captors that were with you, I think you said one was 7. Did they, for example, what do you think the oldest person who was there You were 13, one was 7. Were there any that were older than you?
Yes, there were a couple that were 15, 16 years old.
Okay. All
They
girls?
I'm sorry?
All girls?
Yes, we were all girls.
Okay.
The boys were placed in a separate building. We never saw the boys.
Okay. But you believed or knew that young boys were in a similar situation to you?
Correct.
Okay. Because you were a virgin at that time, you were to be sold at auction like a car or a piece of livestock then.
Yes, they strip you down. It's not like television where they sit you in a chair and then people just walk over and say and touch your hair and say, "Ooh, I like this one." It wasn't like that at all. It was they stripped you down and stuck you in a room with cameras, and the cameras were all around you. And the individual who was auctioning you would have you speak. They had sentences that you had to say. And if you deviated from those sentences, you were punished. You did everything you could to keep from being punished. The punishment wasn't a slap on the face or an arm twisting. They used cigarettes and matches and knives, and on the bottoms of the feet, they would have a board with nails coming up, and they would place your foot on top of the nails, and if you did not do or say what they wanted you to do or say, they would take a hammer and pound one time to get the nails at the bottom of your feet. And if you were good, they would leave it there. If you were bad, they would continue to pound.
KATE Kruszewski, of the people that you were there with, ranging up to from 7 to, I think you said 15 or 16 or so, were there some young girls who the auction was apparently successful and they left and you never saw them?
Correct. We don't know what kind of auction they were auctioned for. If they were auctioned for sexual favors, deviancy, whatever, or just servitude. Some of the girls, well, actually, most of the girls that were not virgins were continually raped. So I do not know what happened to them. I never saw them again.
Okay. As far as you knew, that was it. They disappeared. You were still there.
Correct.
So you stayed in that spot. Did anyone appear as though they were interested in you, and were you moved in furtherance of that interest?
I was there for 27 days. That particular group of people are no longer in business. But you are left, and the girls that at that particular time did not get moved around like they do today.
Okay.
Today, they are moved every 6 to 7 days. So they do not get captured or caught. And the victims, it's harder to rescue and extract. Back when I was there, you were moved every 30 to 45 days because the awareness, this is my opinion, I can't prove this, but the awareness was swept under the rug. There were so many higher elite individuals in government positions that would sweep these sort of things under the rug. And if somebody was actually rescued or they escaped, if they went to the authorities would shut them up.
Okay. Folks, we're talking to KATE Kruszewsski. She's the creator and owner, and much, much more. We're going to find out about that, of the Survive, Thrive, Stay Alive Facebook page. It's essentially a survival page and so much more. KATE, you were there for, I think you said 27, 29 days, right around there?
27 days.
27 days. And then something happened.
Yes.
Your paternal grandfather intervened. And what happened?
My biological grandfather, on my father's side, like I said earlier, my father was an aristocrat. When you get used to saying something, and my grandfather was also an aristocrat, and he paid some mercenaries to trace, track, and rescue me. Myself and another individual were the only two that were rescued.
Okay, and I was going to ask you if you were the only one. So, from the day that you were kidnapped, at the age of 13, sold into sexual slavery for a debt, human trafficked, essentially by your stepfather and your eldest brother, in Greece, in a foreign country, on vacation, the window that existed between them being aware of what happened to you and the time that you were rescued, the window was, to me, exceedingly short. Your grandfather apparently paid some individuals to locate you and rescue you.
Correct. The window, the Phoenix Federation LLC International is what I started. It's probably a question that you were going to ask.
Yes.
Okay. But it is a company that I started, and our goal is to trace, track, rescue, and extract victims of human trafficking. And it isn't like we just go out looking for traffickers. As we have clients who contact us and say, my daughter, my cousin, my niece, my nephew, whatever, has been missing for 3 days. The authorities will do nothing about it. They are not runaways. Can you help? And we go back in that individual's life at least 6 months. Usually, we can go back 14 days, and we can find a common denominator. And sometimes there are cases that we've had to go back at least 6 months to find a common denominator. Once we have found that common denominator, we can trace that common denominator to a specific place. Then we sit and watch. It is a waiting game. And we sit and watch. Sometimes it can take, once a contract is signed, it can take 7 days. It can take up to a year to find that individual. Sad. The statistics is really sad. It's over a $65 billion a year industry, and only 2% of the world cases of children missing are rescued. That should tell you how many children go missing around the world.
I'm going to get into that when we get into your motivation, et cetera. I mean, folks, if you can't sense what the motivation is by now, you should definitely tune out. KATE Kruszewsski, what can you tell us about your paternal grandfather? And the reason I ask is, who would take it upon themselves as a grandfather? He must have been an amazing man to coordinate and pay for what I'm guessing was an exceptionally audacious plan in another country.
He was from another country. He was an amazing man. He was in the military, and he was a very high officer in the military. And he call. He knew what to do. And I was very blessed, and so was the other individual that was with me. We were very blessed to be rescued. We still have contact, her and I. She has not gone the same direction that I have. She has turned to prostitution, which is very sad. She did not have a support system like I had a support system. Support is imperative. It is very important. Going to where, like, Phoenix was concerned, the Phoenix Federation is, once an individual, male or female, that does not matter the age, we have rescued and extracted people 3 months old to 60 years old. And it doesn't matter what the age is. They need the support system. And we have a support system in 27 countries. We have support, we have counselors, we have safe houses. Sadly, I would say 80 to 85% of the individuals that are rescued, their families do not care about them. They have no place to go. If they are sent back to their families are just going to resell them. So we have safe houses across the world, depending on where we rescue from. They are taken to safe houses. They are counseled. They have a huge support system. They are, depending on how old they are schooled. They, if they're old enough to where they already have an education, or they have not graduated from a high school or an equivalency, we make sure that they have that equivalency and they get the education that they need and training that they need to become productive in society.
Let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this before the show, in doing the show prep for tonight. And I thought about, no, maybe I shouldn't ask about this, but I decided I'm going to. Your paternal grandfather, how much longer past this did he survive? Did he, in other words, I think the question would be, did he live longer to be a greater influence on you besides just that operation?
Absolutely. My grandfather was my best friend. He died December 15th, 2015.
How old was he? I'm curious.
83.
That's an amazing life, well lived, I would expect. Let me ask you this.
So for all of those listeners that want to take all of these clues and they want to look it up, you're going to find out who he is.
What do you think, Kate Kruszewski, would have happened to you had your paternal grandfather not come in and rescued you from that scene?
At the time, I have no idea. But knowing what I know now in the industry of the rescuing, I know that I would not have survived. Once a buyer buys you from the auction and buys a virgin, they want a certain age and a certain age group. They want a specific child. Once they get that child and they penetrate that child and they continue to penetrate that child, and the rapes continue, that usually lasts about 14 months. And the child has outgrown what the perpetrator wants.
That's called aging out.
Correct.
I was in child abuse. I fought evil in the Child Abuse Bureau in the department that I worked for, and pedophiles have they're age rangists. You are not acceptable before a prior age that is in their mind, and you age out after you reach a certain age. They have a fantasy preference, and if you're not within those ranges, then they have no interest in you.
We have found men who, who, if a young girl, if her breasts become too big, they don't want her.
Right.
If their breasts are too small, they don't want her. They have to be a perfect child for a certain amount of time, and then they either resell the child or they kill the child.
Right. They'll get another one. That happened to me in child abuse. That's how I ended up going to robbery, and that's how I ended up going to homicide. They have a very select range in their brains, in their fantasy. Anything out of that range, they have no interest in, and you're discarded.
Correct.
Because they will always find another.
What people do not understand, I have a friend who said, how do you know? Because I can walk through a mall. I can walk through an airport, a bus station, and I can see a child, and I know that child has been sexually abused. And how do you know? Well, because I lived it. You know the signs. You know when they're shy. There's a difference between a child being shy and a child being shy because they're afraid that they're about to be smacked, raped, touched, hurt. And I am not afraid to walk up to a child in front of a man and ask that child, is everything all right?
You can see it in their face.
Their whole demeanor.
It's the way they look, the way they carry themselves.
Absolutely.
The way they respond to their environment, and also
when
more
their
specifically,
eyes look down most of the, when their eyes look down most of the time and they cannot look you in the eyes, they're fearful, or you can see it. You can see it.
And it's also the reactions to the people, as you indicate, that are with them.
Correct.
Kate Kruszewski, Jack in chat wants to know, were Muslims involved in your situation, in your story?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm sure this is pretty much an obvious question. Maybe it isn't, but did that operation influence your wanting to get into the military?
Yes.
Okay. And you did that at the age of 18? I
did. As soon as I graduated high school, actually it was even before I graduated high school, I was, I had already had my first degree, college degree, and I graduated at 15. And I was still allowed to go with my graduating class on a graduation day when I was just before I was 18. I don't know if anybody understands that, but that's how it worked back then. And I joined on what is called the delayed entry program. And I joined, my mother was not amused that I wanted to be a police officer. And I wanted to be in the military because I knew military, I could go overseas and I could stop these people. I could do something. That's what it was in my mind. I did not know that once you were in the military, you do what they say. Yeah. It isn't what you think, you know. So after I joined the military, and my recruiter told me you bet I could do whatever it is I wanted to do. Once I went through my basic training, you bet I could go after the bad guys. And you found out, oh my God, he lied to me. Gee, shock of all shockers. And when I had the opportunity to be escort, that is when I learned so much more about the trafficking. Because as an escort, you can, let's just say, for example, you are escorting a Saudi Arabian prince and his children. You can guarantee that all 90 of those children, there are only 2 or 3 that is closest to the throne. The rest of them are just tools. And you can tell which ones have been bought, which ones have been sold, which ones are for slavery, which ones are not. You just know. And you learn body language, you learn the skills that they can teach you profiling. Let's just use that as an example. You can be taught profiling.
That's not enough.
It is not enough. Once you have the experience under your belt, that experience expounds. My experience started at 13 as an innocent child. And I grew from there. I could tell body language. I could tell just by the way someone would look at me or look at someone else. You just knew. It was, you know that you know in your knowing. Now all you have to do is prove it.
And it's because at that point, it was absolutely a matter of your personal survival. I want to mention a couple of things in chat. Jeremy Hansen happens to be in Facebook chat. He said, real men don't act like that. They are subhuman. They are oxygen thieves. If you wonder why people advocate for mercenaries and vigilantes after this show, everybody will know. Leslie in SHR Media chat said, have you ever seen a documentary called The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan? And I happen to know about them. Those are called the Bakabatsi Boys.
I haven't seen that. Okay.
And I make mention of that because I took it upon myself to school myself in Islam, reading the Quran, the Hadith, etc. Let me recap if I can. At the age of 13, KATE KRUSZEWSKI, you were kidnapped and sold into human trafficking. You had to deal with that for 29 days. You were rescued by your paternal grandfather with, I'm guessing, a handful of mercs, and they successfully liberated you from your captors. Is that
was 27 days.
27 days.
27 days, and there were 6 mercenaries, and every single one of the captors did not survive.
An astounding thing. Okay, we're going to build on that. Kate. I know we agreed on an hour. If you have to go, I completely understand.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Are you still okay?
I'm okay.
Okay. All right, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I would like to continue.
What does the audience say?
They're pretty much gobsmacked.
Okay.
As I expect that folks would be. So let's do this. I'm not going to play any kind of a promo or anything like that or a break. I just want to let folks know what they're listening to.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
We're talking to KATE KRUSZEWSKI. She's the creator of Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive on Facebook. Kate, what do you think is the biggest thing that most people don't know about human trafficking?
The biggest thing that people do not know about human trafficking is that it is actually happening. There are so many people that have their heads buried in the sand that unless it happens to them, they don't know and or they don't care. They do not know that it is over a $65 billion industry a year and growing. That there are more people in the upper elite echelons of government that are just as involved. I say that, and just proof in the pudding. Look at Jeffrey Epstein, who by the way, I want to throw this in, did not kill himself. Anyway, look at Jeffrey Epstein and the elite that went to what is now dubbed Lolita Island, or the Lolita Express, or whatever. Look how many of the elite were there, and how many young girls were there, and how many young girls were thrown away because they reached a specific age.
That's been happening before the beginning of time. Folks, I'll tell you two stories. If you know the story of Alice in Wonderland, you'll know that Lewis Carroll was a massive pedophile. If you're a fan of science fiction, if anyone has heard the name of Arthur C. Clarke, he's an English individual who was responsible for writing Childhood's End, for example, and also 2001: A Space Odyssey, any number of other science fiction books. Essentially the father of the satellite. Arthur C. Clarke left England in order to move to a country called Ceylon years ago, Ceylon. It is now called Sri Lanka. The reason he moved, the sole reason he moved, people said it was for taxes. It was because he was a pedophile, and he could get essentially hot and cold running boys in the proper range whenever he wished. The biggest thing that I want people to take away from this, and I believe that Kate has already said so, is this is an industry. It is a $1 billion industry. Kate, is there any nation on the planet where this doesn't occur?
Oh, my. Not to my knowledge.
Okay, let me put it this way, then. For those of you who are listening live, or for the people who happen to listen in podcast later on. Because I'm sure that someone somewhere is thinking at this point, we live in the United States. It doesn't occur here. Kate, does it occur here?
Yes, sir. I would say, and I can honestly say, that we have proof that it happens in every state within our borders.
When we talk, folks, I'm talking to Kate Kruszewsski. She's the creator of Survive, Thrive, Stay Alive, a number of other companies that we're going to get into in a moment. When we talk about human trafficking, Kate, there are a number of aspects and acts that can fall under that umbrella. Things that I learned back in child abuse in the 90s when I did my time in the Crucible. And there are stories that I'm sure that you witnessed that you'll never tell. And there are cases that I handled that I'll never tell, because a civilized society doesn't act like that. Some of the things that fall under the aegis of human trafficking would be kidnapping. I'll just name a few off the top of my head. Kidnapping, slavery, sexual workers, transportation between countries, rich people, poor people, rich nations, poor nations, the wealthy. You already mentioned politicians, government employees, criminal enterprises, drug cartels, and military involvement from all sorts of nations. You mentioned Jeffrey Epstein. He was a sex trafficker and a kidnapper.
Our organization was one of the organizations involved in his arrest.
I can't tell you how I admire you for having said that. The individual who apparently at this point is not paying any price for this is his enabler, his acquisition artist, Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine Maxwell. But my guess is, and if you haven't figured out by now, folks, it was Jeffrey Epstein's was one of the greatest Ponzi schemes in the world using little girls. And as far as I know, though I don't have any evidence that it occurred, I'm sure little boys as well in his realm. What he would do is he amassed a fortune, built or inhabited, lived in places that were extremely private, so that he could record everything to be displayed to all of those individuals later for favors, theft, bribery, extortion, you name it. His was an enterprise, a global enterprise. Let me ask you, KATE Kruszewski, would you think that somewhere, someone possesses all the film, the digitization necessary, and the names and information of everyone who was involved with Jeffrey Epstein?
I can guarantee it. Yes.
And
you know that there's at least one individual that has all of that. And that individual is not going to have just one copy. That individual has made more than one copy, and it is distributed to safe places. Just in case anything happens to that individual, and the original or facsimile thereof is discovered and taken, there are more copies of that original. Do I believe that that person exists? I can guarantee it.
I most certainly do. To the point where that individual has sufficient power to not yet be discovered, and having essentially assembled a contract on Jeffrey Epstein, who, after the second prosecution, could not be allowed to live. His was the perfect storm of stupidity within the tombs in New York, and he hung himself like I'm a hubcap.
Wow, you look good on that 1969 Ford.
Thank you. But his situation brings up another excellent question. And, folks, if you don't want to think about this, you should. If you have not been personally involved like KATE or done the investigations like me, then consider yourself lucky that yourself or your children have not been involved. But I would submit, without the cooperation of various governments, politicians, people in high places, cartels, criminals, could human trafficking or sexual slavery even occur? Do you think so, KATE?
I think sexual slavery has occurred since, I don't know, a long time. Centuries. I can only attest to, and I can only give my opinion, and I can only attest to what I've been subjected to. And everything that we've investigated, everything that we've tracked, and the names that we know, we alone cannot stop it. There are more bad guys than there are good guys. And we cannot, we're just a small group, and I'm not saying that Phoenix Federation is the only group out there, because we're not. Craig Sawyer is out there with his team, Veterans Against Child Trafficking. There's A21, Awareness in the 21st Century, which we've had contracts with, and Project Beautiful, which is international, and we've had contracts with. There's organizations worldwide, but there are more of the elite bad guys. We're just peons. We're not wealthy. We have to scrape the bottom of the toilet bowl just to get the money to get these teams trained to get out there so we can save lives. And then as soon as we think that we have the training and the funding to go out, somebody flushes that toilet and down the drain we go, to where we have to start scraping and scrimping and crawling ourselves out of that toilet bowl just to save lives. And that sounds gross, but that's exactly how we feel. We are an elite group. We have 9 teams. Yes, we do. We go out and we do what we need to do. But we have to earn our own money to do it. The elite out there, they're taking taxpayers' money, not just in the United States, but other countries. We're talking with Saudi Arabian princes that have billions of dollars. They outdo us financially to where they can pay for the auctions, they can pay for the auctioneers, they can pay the traffickers. We don't have that kind of resource.
KATE KRUSZEWSKI, would you riddle me this? Do you think the people that were involved in Jeffrey Epstein's Ponzi scheme, his sexual Ponzi scheme, and all the favors he bestowed or removed from other individuals, do you think that even today, despite the fact that Jeffrey Epstein is dead and did not commit suicide, to my fervent, I will never be convinced otherwise, do you believe that there is a large cadre of individuals out there whose asses are watertight, thinking that one day, there'll be a knock on the door?
I can guarantee you that they're puckering their butts. They are puckering. They know that there is a team out there that are hunting them, and that team has the evidence against them, and it will be one by one. It will not be a group. It's just like they're coming after patriots and militia and people who want to stand up for the United States Constitution and things like that. They're going to come after these people one by one because they know that they cannot get them collectively. Well, this team that is going after this group of people that are puckering, yes, they know that their time is almost up.
Let me ask you in general, Kate, do you think that the state of human trafficking or sexual trafficking today around the globe, is it getting worse or is it getting slightly better?
By far getting worse.
Okay. And does that revolve around the fact that not only are such fantastic amounts of money involved in it, but the pool of people that are dipping into sexual trafficking is expanding?
I think it's every bit that. Plus, there are women out there that are just popping out babies like rabbits. And you can get on Craigslist and buy a baby because they want the money. They want to buy their drugs. They just pop out babies. There are traffickers that will buy an infant, a male or a female. They will buy that infant and raise that infant to a certain age and then sell that child. It happens frequently. And people are blind to it. It's like they don't want to see it. Oh no, that cannot be happening. That's 1800 stuff where people are just being sold and it's slavery and it's no big deal. That cannot be happening now. It is happening, and it's happening under your nose.
I could go somewhere with BLM right now, but this is not the show for that. Let me see if I can travel back in time for a moment, because I think this is the time where we're going to expand just a bit. You were honorably discharged from the U.S. Army and you served for a number of years. So after serving, you decided to create your own international company to try to stop human trafficking. That was your Phoenix LLC. Let me ask you this. Were there any areas in which you guys specialized? Was it negotiation, coordination, working with other countries, liaison, or were you the guy, the folks, were you the contingent that actually went out and did what your grandfather did, the physical the physical work of getting people back and returning them?
We were the contingency. My grandfather was the catalyst. He helped me start the company. He walked me through a board of directors. He walked me through exactly what to do, how to do it, why to do it that way. He introduced me to mercenaries, and I had some military friends that I served with that joined as well. The same mercenaries that rescued me are still on a couple of my teams. And when people think mercenary, this day and age, they think, oh my God, they're contract killers. That is not true. Mercenaries are people who sign a contract to do a job. Not, oh my gosh, you've got a $5 million price on your head. We're going to assassinate you and kill you and collect that $5 million. That is not what we do. We are the trained contingency that goes out, trace, tracks, rescues, and extracts these victims of human trafficking. In some countries, we are allowed to do what we need to do with the traffickers. In other countries, their laws are different, and we have to hand them over to the authorities. Once they're in handcuffs and we hand them over to the authorities, by the time we are on a plane and to a safe house, the perpetrators have been released. And we have to do it all over again. They know what countries that they can work in and that the government officials are bought. They can do whatever they need to do and want to do to make the industry grow. We are out there to do everything we can to stop that industry.
So it would be correct, KATE KRUSZEWSKI, to say that your paternal grandfather, I think you said he passed away in 2015, he was 83. Would it be safe to say that he got to see your success?
Yes.
What a wonderful thing that would be.
He was the reason for the company and success. And what we do, and Kaiser can back this up if anybody has any doubts or questions, is my grandfather and I may have started the company, but I do not consider it my company. The people that work in the company have been with the company for 5 to 30 to 40 years. It is not my company, it is our company. We work together as a team.
But that's the dedication that's required, though.
I have an accountability. It is not my company. I have a board of directors and I have teams that I answer to. That if I screw up, bring it to my attention. And if I continue to screw up, I'm fired. Fire my butt. That's the way it has to be, or the company will not succeed. We are a team.
Without giving away details, and I'm not going to ask you to, can you give us, me, an overall sense of the gist of some of your more successful operations? Maybe you don't need name names, places, etc. Obviously not. But there are well, let me ask you, are there some operations in which you were involved that did involve some very successful outcomes?
I can name one that Kaiser knows very well. Is just recently, I will not name date, and one of the alpha teams, I was part of an alpha team, and I was used as bait. I was trained months in advance of what they would do to me. But there were several children that we located, but because of the status of who these children were, they were being transferred from place to place every 6 to 7 days. And we needed to act, and we needed to act fast. And I was used as bait. And just recently, I was just released from the company doctor to be able to continue working just before I retired, because when my team came in and rescued the children and extracted me, I had 7 broken ribs and a few miscellaneous new scars and cigarette burns on my body. And yes, it was successful. Yes, the individuals were arrested. We also were able to get a very high elite military general from another country arrested. He was instrumental as an auction buyer. And there were 4 girls and 7 boys and 2 adults that were rescued during that particular mission. That was not within the United States borders.
Kate, you and I both know, and I think the audience is beginning to certainly understand, that the situations in which you and I have dealt with, me in the past, you currently, in the past and also in the future, are situations involving individuals of certain assignments that people don't want to think about being involved in escapades like this. I was involved in one particular case with the Catholic Church. If I'm not mistaken, that you were also involved with the Catholic Church at one time. I'm not asking for details. All I'm saying is that people like that in those areas are involved. And if you don't think somewhere in your neighborhood, folks, there is an individual that doesn't have predilections like this, you would be oh so mistaken.
They are usually the pillar of society, the class clown, the party individual, not as in like drugs party, but the party individual in a very large governmental home, building, diplomat, somebody that could be next door that you don't know that really owns a Mercedes and has another family across town. They are the pillar of society. They go to church. They're a deacon in their church. Everybody loves them without realizing that deacon in the church, and I'm not coming down on churches. I'm a churchgoer. I'm a God-fearing. Jesus Christ is my personal Lord and Savior, because if it wasn't for him, I'd be dead several times over. What I'm saying is that we have arrested several deacons of churches, and they have made confessions that they are deacons in certain large churches. We're talking 5, 10, 15,000 members of these churches. They are there to look for specific types of children for auctions.
Tonight is not the night for it because it's not about me. But some night I was thinking about taking folks here in the show on a trip with just a few of the things that I've witnessed. Now that we mentioned that, Kate, you mentioned God. I should imagine that God has been a comfort in your past, your present, and likely your future. As God is with me. was that relationship a large part of how it is that you managed to survive through various facets of personal hell that you encountered?
That was the only reason why I survived. Except for this last mission, I do have to admit that there was a gentleman in my life. I will not mention his name, but there was a gentleman in my life during this last mission. And between Christ, Christ is not a religion to me. Christ is a relationship. And I talk to him. And people say, well, does he talk to you back? Well, you know what? He gives you a book. And he says, read it. Does God talk to me? He talks to me through the trees, through his creation. But I'm not saying that this is all weird stuff. But there was a gentleman during this last mission that he kept my head in the game. And I'm not talking, he did not know what was going on with me during this last mission. He knew I was on the mission, but he had no idea what was transpiring. And he did not know until after the mission that he was instrumental in me thinking about him holding me or holding my hand or talking me through. I could hear his voice talking me through the things that they did to me. And he would tell me, it's going to be okay. I can make it through. My team is going to be there. You are not going to die. And he is still instrumental in my life. We are very good friends. Sorry.
That's okay. Can I tell you something? Something that I think says a great deal about you and your character.
Sure. I apologize. I got a little teary-eyed there.
Well, you and I discussed this, and we both knew that this was going to rear its head. But I want to tell you this. In a way, you kind of remind me of my father. He was a really humble guy, and he never bragged. He never really talked about his journey. He was in World War II. He was a pilot for the 8th Air Force in England. He completed his missions. And he came back here and became a flight instructor. He never spoke about his time, or he never bragged or made comments about his work. So you remind me of him insofar as you have, to me, an amazing amount of really quiet inner strength, the courage of your convictions. You are a survivor of at least obviously one immense tragedy at incredible early age that could have ruined anyone, as you said. Over a lengthy period of time, you have a serious humility. You could have become embittered, or you could have let it destroy your life.
I did at one time. I did. In 1990, in 1988, I met a man. He was in Special Forces, and he, in 1990, we were engaged.
Okay.
And make a long story short, in 1990, an IED took his life during Operation Desert Storm.
Okay.
And between my feelings of being inferior because I was not good enough for God to allow me to have a husband, and my future husband being torn away from me, I gave up, and I was to the point of not suicide per se, you could say, I was to the point of I didn't care. I didn't care anymore. Do with me what you will. I could have become a prostitute. I could have. I could have done anything. I could have been in drugs, and I still could have prostituted myself out. And my grandfather got me out of it. He didn't slap me into submission physically, but he took that spiritual baseball bat and knocked me over the head. And there have been times throughout, I guess you could call it a career, that I have felt inferior, or has my life changed anybody else's life? Have I touched anybody's life? And what my grandfather taught me, both my grandfather and my grandmother, what they taught me was, you don't live in yesterday, because that is where you're going to stay. You cannot live for tomorrow, because tomorrow is not promised. What have you done today to change the life of one person? What have you done today? And so how dare I be so selfish to look at myself and say, I have had cigarette burns on my nipples. I have had cigarette burns on my clitoris. I have had cigarette burns, and I have had acid thrown in my private parts. How dare I dwell on that and say, I am not worth it? Because if I was not worth it, God would not have brought me through to change that one life for today.
Kate, I think that's the exact point. At the age of 13, I'll tell it again, folks, you were kidnapped and sold into human trafficking, sexual slavery. You had to deal with that world for almost a month. You were rescued by your paternal grandfather and a handful of mercs. You went into the military. You excelled in the military. To use one of your words, you thrived in the military. You used those experiences following your honorable discharge. You built your own company designed to combat human and sexual trafficking yourself. You built that. You became a business owner and an entrepreneur. You fought aggressively against human trafficking for years. And I'm about to make kind of a little pivotal point here, and all the other things that you just delineated to us within the past 2 minutes. It appears you've officially retired from that job in June of this year, just a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
A little bit less than a week.
Okay.
That particular portion of the job, I have retired.
Okay. But I want to emphasize, and trust me when I tell you folks I'm going somewhere, you're not stopping. One door closed. Would I be correct in saying that essentially 2 more are opening?
Correct. God has blessed me with a plot of earth that has a diverse terrain, everything from cliffs to mines to ponds to just a dense forest. And I am opening not just myself, but myself and a couple of partners. We are opening a wilderness survival school and a school to teach other people to do exactly what I have done for the last 35 years.
See, and that's the point. That this is where I wanted to bring you tonight, which is why I said it's kind of a circuitous course. We got here. Wilderness Survival School, obviously building upon the training that you've had over the years and then displayed for everybody to see at Survive, Thrive, and Stay Alive. And then I would also submit this, your requisite training, education, and experience you have brought with you to not just stop at where you ended in this, in human trafficking, but you're creating what you told me was a leadership tactical training school to basically make, as you said, to make, well, as I say, to make more of you, to be able to go out and combat.
Not just me.
Well, people with goals.
Yes, there is a team of instructors that will be coming here, that this team will be an elite team, and their leadership skills are amazing. Our biggest thing in leadership is we do not want to just lead. We want you to teach us how to lead. We're going to teach you how to lead, but we want you to teach us how to lead. Because leaders will always be a student.
Luke, the student becomes the master.
And the master will always be the student.
So, creating a leadership tactical training school, it's essentially an extension of your own life to help others to continue to lead the fight against human trafficking, and sexual slavery. Mm-hmm. Folks, Kate, can you think of a better legacy than that? I can't.
Well, if each one reach one, that is my motto. If each one of us can reach one person, that's the legacy. Whose life has you changed today? Even if it's just walking down the street and smiling at somebody, you could just have saved that person's life from suicide. You could have been the reason why that person did not kill themselves. If each one reached one, that's the legacy I want. What have I done today to reach that one person, to save a person's life?
Kate Kruszewski, you told me that you were humbled that I would want to interview you. And yes. I told you that instead it was I who had the honor, that you were the inspiration. So I hope that all of us tonight, everybody, have ourselves been inspired by the story and by the life of Kate. Because frankly, as far as I was concerned, and you just heard from the lips of Kate, that was the goal tonight. Her goal and my goal. And I think now that and I thank you for the extra time. I think now that the voyage has concluded, everybody tonight can understand the journey that you took, the life you led, the things you experienced, which informed the turns that you took, Kate, which led to the place where you are today. And that's the circuitous path we all took along with you to get to where we are right now. Basically at the end of our incredible adventure tonight. Because, like I said, in truth, as one door closes, two doors open up. And that's how life works. So I think you'd agree with me regarding that, wouldn't you, Kate?
Yes, I would. And I appreciate you interviewing me tonight. I appreciate you taking time to want to.
I'm going to take some words that you wrote to me, and I'm going to let everybody hear them, because I think they're very important. One of your last texts to me before the show, you said, and this, again, bespeaks volumes to, I believe, who you are. your person, your character. You said, who I am now is just a plain and simple country girl with a complicated job. And you also wrote this to me. You said, abuse doesn't have to be sexual. If we can reach one person tonight, you don't really know me. You're writing this to me in a text. But this is the kind of person you are. You said if we can reach one person tonight and show them what they've gone through is not their fault, love isn't a dirty word, but a positive reinforcement of life, that they matter, as you just said a couple of minutes ago, then it will all have been worth it. We all count. We all matter. No matter how raw the scars are or how deep the hurt goes. Kate, is that what you want people to remember from you tonight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love is not a dirty word. No matter what you've gone through, love is not a dirty word. Love is a positive action word. And you matter. Your life matters. No matter what you've been through, no matter the hurt and the pain and the soul-wrenching, I cannot make it anymore. Let me tell you something. You've made it 100% of the way so far. You can make it another 100%. And you do matter.
This is what you need.
Want to be remembered for.
Exactly, and this is what you need to take away from the show tonight. So, as I customarily tell people who are on my show, because predominantly they are from the East Coast, and it is now 9:43 on the left coast, which means that it is 12:43 on the far East Coast, I would be remiss if I didn't say to you, Kate Kruszewski, thank you for staying up so late, just like most of my guests. And thank you again for giving me the honor of featuring your story tonight. So, Kate, from me, I hope everyone has enjoyed your tale. I say take care, God bless, and be safe.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. And good night.
Good night.
How do I follow that up? I don't think I do.
Monsieur has unlocked!
We'll meet again. Don't know when. Don't know when.
Sing along.
But I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know when, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim.
Good night, and good luck.